Welcome to KGPT's Wichita's Biz That Is. I'm Tim Witzman, president of the Wichita Independent Business Association. And we've tried to bring you different, interesting people and companies. Some of those have been larger, but today we have one that's very interesting, I think. Claudia Ralston is the owner of Garden Gizmo Railways, right? Garden Railway Gizmos. Oh, start off with a mistake, sorry. Before we get to that, let's talk about you a little bit and kind of background, where you grew up and the things before Garden Gizmos.
Well, I was lucky. I grew up in Colorado. My dad worked for the Bureau of Reclamation, so I got to live in Grand Lake and Estes Park when it was still...
Oh, I'm so sorry for you.
Well, it's really funny because when I first moved here to Wichita and everybody talked about going to Grand Lake for their vacation, I thought, wow, all these people go to Colorado. Then I discovered it's Oklahoma.
Oh, I see. Well, Estes has had some, they were cut off here for a while, I think, with the floods recently.
Oh, could have been. I don't know.
Okay.
I know that one of the things that they're all sad about is losing all the pine trees.
Yep. As you went through school, what were your interests? Where were you headed? What were you thinking of doing as you started out?
Actually, I started out to be a medical technologist in a hospital.
You know, I thought you might have something medical. I did no idea that. But
yep.
And, well, tell us about it.
It was kind of a detour. I have one of those kind of strange checkered pasts.
Oh, we want to hear about that checkered past.
I started college, but it didn't really work out. So I went into the Navy. And I was in the Navy for 4 years, and I was a hospital corpsman there. And after I got out, I had other kind of plans in mind and actually went into the convent.
Oh.
So I was in the convent for a number of years, and that's where I ended up actually being a medical technologist. Worked in hospitals.
Right. Got
to draw blood, stick people.
Was that here or in Colorado?
I was here in Kansas.
Okay. And what led you to make a change from that?
Well, it was just one of those things that I felt we were going to the same place, but kind of by two different directions. And so in that sense, I wasn't really representing them in not that I was doing anything bad, but just wasn't representing them. So I left, and I actually came to Wichita and worked for Boeing.
Well, your earlier background reminded me of both my parents. My mom started out to be a dietitian, and the war came along. She got married, never finished that, became a teacher. And my dad went in the Navy.
Ah, well, good.
Okay, so a couple of connections there.
Sure.
Okay, so when you left the convent, then what? Tell me a little more.
Moved here to Wichita, and of course the first thing I really knew was medtech, so I worked at one of the hospitals for a while. And I'd also had technician training because the blinking lights on the machines were as exciting as some of the other things. And so I applied at Boeing, got a job there, worked there for a number of years.
What kind of work did you do there?
Oh, I started out breaking things for a living. That was really nice. I worked in structures, tests. Went from there to actually finished college and ended up as an engineer. And was lucky enough to be able to go down to Alabama and work on the space station program.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I can say my 15 minutes of fame is they had to build it according to my instructions.
Somehow that sounds right, Claudia.
Yes.
So where did this passion or interest in the railroads and all that come from?
Well, I'm not really sure because I never had it growing up. Even though when I was in junior high, for one Christmas, I got a train for a Christmas present, having never mentioned it. My mother told me much later on that she thought my father really wanted it. So I got it.
It's possible.
I don't know. It was when I was, well, I know really where it started. It was a seed catalog. And I have often wished that I had kept this catalog because everybody asks me where it came from. There was this picture of this little train going between two rocks. And there were some figures in front of it, and one of the guys was scratching his head. and there was a little flower growing between the tracks, so the train couldn't go any further. And I said, I have to have one of those.
Now, did that come after Boeing, or did you do something else for a while?
No, actually, I started it down when I was in Alabama.
Oh, down there.
Started learning about trains, and it was really just about the year I was ready to set up the track on the outside was when I got moved back. So I had to start all over again. New ideas, new plans.
Well, okay, but talk to me a little bit about the idea, because that's part of what's interesting is how people start these things. What was your concept? What were you trying to do?
I don't know. It was just kind of fun. I think I'm kind of a modeler. Okay. I'm not one of the people who wants to play engineer. You know, I don't care if there's 16 sidings and I run it back and forth and change cars. It's just kind of fun to model, you know, to watch it run around and build the town that goes with it. And the only thing is I think I would really like a gigantic Morton building, because nature has its way with things when it's outside.
It can. It can. I remember one of my favorite things was going to the Museum of Science and Industry in Chicago, because they had a big display, and it was so cool. I mean, in the 1940s, 1950s, it was really cool. That and the captured German submarine, the only U-boat left. And I'd love to go up to see those.
Well, interestingly enough, our club has actually built the layout at Botanica.
Oh, yeah.
And it's become one of their popular attractions. So people love trains no matter what.
Oh, absolutely. And by the way, to disclose a little more, my grandfather was a railroad engineer.
Well.
On the Monon and the, what was the other? Wabash, I think.
Oh, okay.
So it goes back pretty deep. All right, we'll come back in just a moment with more of Wichita's Biz That Is with Claudia Ralston.